Hello everyone, welcome to today's session. So today we are going to continue the chapter of professional ethics. In last session, what we discussed, I'll quickly provide a summary of that so that you can get gist of like what we discussed in last session, and then we'll continue forward. In last session, we started with these schedules. Okay. Over there, we discussed about part 1 of schedule, which has 12 clauses, which is, clause 1, if you allow anyone to practice in your name, you will be held guilty. Clause 2, if you pay or agree to pay commission to anyone, you will be held guilty of professional misconduct. Clause 3, accept or agree to accept commission, held guilty of professional misconduct. Clause 4, if you enter with in partnership with anyone, then again. Clause 5, if you secure professional work through means not open for a CA. Clause 6, solicit the clients or professional works through advertisement. Clause 7, advertising professional attainments or services. Clause 8, accepting the position without communicating with the previous auditor. Clause 9, accepting an appointment without ascertaining the requirement of 139 and 140. Clause 10, charge or accept the professional fees percentage of profit contingent upon finding. Clause 11, engaging in business other than the business of CA in practice without the approval. Clause 12, allows any person to sign on my behalf. Okay. So, to sign on your behalf, you will be held guilty of professional misconduct. There are exceptions to each of the clause, so the subject to the exceptions. Then comes to the part 2. Basically, part 2 talks about professional misconduct for member in service. So clause 1, agree to pay any amount or commission or parts of their employment. Clause 2, accepts or agree to accept any amount. Okay. That was your part 2 for the professional misconduct for member in service. Now coming to part 3 for professional misconduct for member in general. Number 1, clause 1, not being a fellow represents a fellow. Clause 2, does not supply information to institute. Clause 3, supply false information to others. Okay. Sorry. So that is clause 1, 2, and 3. Now part 4 for member in general, other misconduct. Held guilty of for offense where the punishment is imprisonment less than 6 months. If you bring disrepute to the profession or the institute, you will be held guilty of other misconduct. That was first schedule. Second schedule, we started discussion for the part 1, CA in practice, professional misconduct. That is, if you disclose the information of the client to any other person without his consent or without where it is not required by law, you will be held guilty of professional misconduct. Clause 2, certifies or submits without examination. Clause 3, vouches the accuracy of forecast. Clause 4, expression of the opinion on business where he has substantial interest. Clause 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So they were taken together, like fail to disclose, fail to report, grossly negligent, fail to obtain, fail to invite attention, fail to keep money. So if I summarize 5 to 10, okay, quickly, you can write like disclose, then report. Okay. Then grossly negligent, then obtain, then attention, and then money. Okay. Disclose, report, negligent, obtain, attention, money. 5, 6, 7, 8 clauses. Where a chartered accountant in practice fails, in that case, he will be held guilty of professional misconduct. Okay. If you want, you can remember like this: DRN OAM. Like, I know it's difficult, but again, some, you can just like learn, like disclose, report negligent, obtain attention, money. Okay. Now that was your part one. We will start now with the part two. Part two, again, for member in general, that is a professional misconduct. Can anyone tell me quickly, part two, what is the clause one? Clause one, part two. No? Okay. For part 2, clause 1 talks about if you contravene any of the provision of the act, regulation, or any guidelines issued by the council, you will be held guilty of professional misconduct. So, contravention of act, regulation, guidelines. Okay, if you do any contravention, you will be held guilty of professional misconduct. Now, which are regulations? General, if I talk about some general regulations, engagement of article assistant, regulation 43, okay, termination of article assistant, regulation 56, okay, then restriction or fees 192, 190, chartered accountant not to engage in any other business or occupation. So that will be covered in your part one also. It will be covered here also. Okay, because you have a contravention of act, regulation, or guidelines. Clear? There is no exception. There is nothing, straightforward, a clause. Okay, then. Clause
So
2.
we'll have to
Yes.
remember all the clauses which are applicable in this
All the
in this.
regulations or guidelines.
Yes, sir. For the regulation guidelines, how to
See, I would see, with respect to remembering all the regulations or guidelines. Okay. Now, if I talk about regulations, we have discussed already certain regulations. Regulation 190A, Regulation 192, or other 53A, 53B. We have gone through certain regulations, not all. Now, if you see your study material, like whichever regulations are referred, yes, you need to go through that. But are you required to go through for the regulations of engagement of article assistant, registration, and premium of article assistant? Answer is no. Because that is not something as of now part of your overall structure or the course. Now, coming to the act, there are sections which are discussed, like, a lot of sections are discussed before the schedules in your study material. Then, yes, you are required to remember the act number or section numbers of those particular sections. I hope I have answered your query.
Yes, sir.
Okay. If no doubts, let's proceed to the clause 2. Clause 2. Can anyone tell me part 2, clause 2, second schedule?
Yeah, disclosure of confidential information gained from the employment on service. She should not disclose the confidential matter gained through the employment, except permitted by the employer.
Sorry. Can you just repeat your last line? I missed it. Like, it was not clear to me. Sorry.
Except permitted by the employer.
Yes, absolutely correct. So similar way that we have seen in your part 2 of your first schedule, being an employee of any company, firm, or any person, if you disclose confidential information acquired in the course of employment, except as and when required by law for time being in force, or except permitted by employer, then you will be held guilty of professional misconduct. Now, employee related we saw in part 2 first schedule, but confidentiality related we saw in part 1 of second schedule itself. So similarly, the confidentiality plus employment both together over here. So if you disclose information, now here it's being an employee of the company or firm or a person. Okay. If you disclose information acquired in your course of employment, so I would write employment over here because it is specifically for employment. Then you will be held guilty of professional misconduct. Now the exceptions to this are, if it is permitted by employer, or required by law. Simple. Okay. Any doubts? No. Good. So let's move to the clause 3. What is clause 3? Can anyone tell me? Pretty easy.
Sir, any information asked by the council or institute discipline, the information provided is a false.
Yes. Very good. So I can say false information. Now here it is knowing them to be false. So knowingly, very important. False information, that is knowingly. Okay. Provided to institute. When I write institute, it's not only the institute, but institute, council, its committees, director discipline, board of discipline, disciplinary committee, quality review board, appellant authority, all. Okay. So I'll write over here, this includes all authorities of institute. Okay.
I think with respect to institute alone, there are 3 classes are applicable. And the first schedule, part 3, class 2 is talks about if it does not supply any information to the institute, council, or board of discipline calls for, then guilty. Here in the part 2 of the second schedule also 2 classes are applicable. The first class is any contravention. Third class is the false information.
Yes. So basically, absolutely correctly said that yes, in part 1, we saw when you do not supply information to the institute, or if you supply false information outside, then you are guilty. Here, it is about, first of all, you disclose the information, confidentiality breach. Second, if you supply false information to institute, then again, you will be held guilty. Okay. So that is clause number 3. There is no exception or anything to that. Clause number 4. Quickly, what is clause 4? Anyone clause 4? No? Okay. Clause 4 pretty straightforward. If you embezzle money received in your professional capacity, you will be held guilty of professional misconduct. Simple. If you embezzle or defalcates the money received in your professional capacity, or embezzle money received in professional capacity, If someone has a doubt, what it means, that means if you take away someone's money, if you take away, like, the money given to you, if you do a fraud, okay, so you will be held guilty of professional misconduct.
In second schedule, part 1, in clause 10, it was he fails to keep money of his client in a separate bank account. So that was limited only to that, nothing beyond that.
No,
Only to the extent that he did not keep it in a separate bank account. Only that.
Yes. So it was limited to that particular point, that he has not kept it for the separate bank account, or he has not used for the money for which it was received. Let's say, for example, you receive money to pay GST liability, but you did not use within the reasonable time frame, or you use this money for some other purpose of the client, let's say paying income tax liability. In that case, you will be held guilty in that particular part. Here, that you are embezzling the money, that means you are not able to, like, you have used money for yourself. You've done a fraud with your with the person who gave you the money in professional capacity.
Yeah, that is altogether is different. This is a embezzlement. Is it? This is totally is a other ground on this.
Yeah. You can say kind of theft. If I summarize in simple and short terms, theft of money. You have stolen money in professional, which was given to you in professional capacity.
Yeah, this class is talk about depth. That class is voluntary provided by the employer to auditor. Then that auditor is keeping that money. The purpose is not solved, means we need to deposit the money into separate account. If not deposited, then situation only is crime. But this is a more crime on this. This part 2 of the schedule 2 is class 4 is it's tantamount to crime is.
Yes, absolutely correct. So that was your part 2 for member in general with respect to professional misconduct. Okay. Part 3, the last part of this particular schedule, and the last part of all the schedules that we have to discuss. Part 3, that is again member in general, and it is about the other misconduct. Okay, so there is only one particular clause. There is no clause in it, basically, except for that one. So that clause is straightforward. Like, remember in earlier part, okay, we had this one, held guilty for offense,
Schedule
for imprisonment.
Less than 6 months on the part 4 of the schedule 1.
Yeah, part 4, clause 1 of first schedule. Okay, so held guilty for offense, imprisonment less than 6 months. Now, if you increase more than 6 months, it will come over here. Simple. So you can say guilty.
Here, greater than 6 months.
Yeah, for offense, imprisonment. Okay, for term exceeding 6 months. A member of institute, whether in practice or not, that's why I'm saying it's generally applicable to all, shall deemed to be guilty of other misconduct if he is held guilty by any civil or criminal code. So if you are held guilty of the civil matters also, it will be counted for an offense where the punishment is imprisonment term exceeding 6 months. Okay, so that was your clause 3. Part 3, clause 1. Guilty for offense, imprisonment more than 6 months.
I think this class is easy to remember. Here, in first schedule also, the part 4 is the class 1. Here also, only one class is available.
Yes.
There we had 2 clauses, no?
There we have 2 clauses. Yes, not one.
There we have in the first schedule. Yeah, 2 class. I'm talking about class 1. Class 1. See, in the part 4 on the first schedule, we have 2 clauses. On clause number 2, it talks about, in opinion of the council, any distributive to this professional work.
Yes. So that is clause 2 for bringing disrepute to the professional institute, and clause 1 is a held guilty for the offenses against same, but the imprisonment is less than 6 months.
Yeah, clause 1 I'm talking about. We can easy to remember.
Yeah. Yes.
So can we have some examples of disrepute to the profession?
See, disrepute to the profession, that means, let's say, for example, you violate a law. Okay, you are not imprisoned. You don't have an imprisonment for 6 months. Let's say you don't have any imprisonment, but you violate a law. And you violate in a professional capacity. For example, I'll simply say, you do a contempt of court or any tribunal. That can be counted as a bringing disrepute to the profession. You presenting yourself before the ITAT as a chartered accountant in your professional capacity, and you do a contempt of the tribunal or the court which is there. And the reason is, like, you do it in your professional capacity. So you are trying to bring a disrepute to the profession or the institute. But again, there are a lot many ifs and buts, and you need to see the whole case altogether.
The argument on his behalf, the defense on his behalf would be that the court did not hold him guilty to under contempt of court. Therefore, he is not liable for misconduct, sir.
No.
Because court did not punish him for that, sir. Since the court did not punish him, naturally in this example, if court would have punished him, he would be held guilty under clause 1. So since the court did...
No. It's not like that. See, not always the court will give you imprisonment. Sometimes for the contempt, you can be, barred for before appearing the ITAT or tribunals or court, or you can be only fined also. Like, just pay the fine. You are there is a contempt, just pay the fine, and it's done. It depends upon the bench. But it's not necessary that every time a contempt will result in an imprisonment. I hope I'm clear.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So these were your clauses, schedules, okay, that we have discussed. That is very important part till now. Any doubt with respect to any of the part?
Sir, if we have some overlapping clauses sometimes and we feel we are not very sure, so we can write 2 clauses that he can be held guilty, and there's clause 6, and for example.
Yeah, absolutely, and there will be. So in practical scenarios also, or in most of the scenarios, it's not just like one clause applicable at a time. It can be multiple clause. For example, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now, if you fail to disclose a material fact, it could be, let's say, for example, if there was a misstatement. If you did not report a misstatement, that was a material fact also. Okay. In that case, clause 5 will also be applicable because you have failed to disclose a material fact. Now, it was a misstatement. That's why clause 6 will also be applicable. You have failed to report a misstatement. Clause 7 will be applicable because it was material fact, material misstatement. That's why you did not exercise due diligence. So clause 7 also will applicable. Now, by chance, if you failed to obtain the evidence during your testing, during your audit, clause 8 will also be applicable. So it's not like that, it's just one clause at a time. It can be 5 clauses at a time also, based on the case scenario.
Yes, sir.
Any doubts? Okay. If no doubt, let's solve some questions and then we will proceed further. So we have solved this one. Yes. Let's see other questions. Okay. Let me zoom in a bit. Very good question. This one. So, CAP has been representing Messrs. VS and Associate before Income Tax Appellate Tribunal for a case of income escaping assignment for FY 16-17. There were unidentified credits in the books of account. CAP was the statutory auditor of the company that time and did not mention anything about such credit in his audit report. Later, it was found that he has sufficient evidence to believe that these credits were liable to be taxed. In order to make his case stronger, he produced false documents and made witnesses present false statements. What do you think are the provisions against CAP under different acts? Quickly. What do you think which are the provisions which are against CAP under different act?
Sir, he is a statutory auditor, so he cannot present himself as before this income tax appellate tribunal.
Like here, basically, if you see, like in the given scenario, he has presented the client. Now it could be because of he was asked to be present over there because he was a statutory auditor. Let's assume as of now he was allowed to present before before the tribunal for the client. Then what will be the particular provisions which are against Mr. CAP in this particular scenario?
Second schedule, part 1, clause 5, 6, 7, 8.
Okay. Anything other you would like to add? Anything else you would like to add here?
Second schedule, part 2, clause 1 also.
Second schedule, part 2, clause 1 also. Okay. Can you just provide me why do you think second schedule, part 2, clause 1 also?
Because he has, in my opinion, sir, he has contravened the provisions of the act also, the regulations or the guidelines by not disclosing about the credit in his audit report. These
Okay.
they he has violated the standards as such, na sir.
Okay. Anyone else? Anything else? Okay. Not an issue. Let me explain over here. See, the question here, if you see, talks about that what are the provisions against CAP under different act. Okay, this is very important point. Different act. It's not only the Charter Accountants Act. It talks about different act. So if such kind of scenario or the question is, you have to write about, let's say this is an Income Tax Appellate Tribunal. So write about Income Tax Act plus CA Act. Now here this is a Messrs. VS Associate. It's not a company. Otherwise I would have also asked you to write about Companies Act also. But let it be. Okay. Now let's talk about first Income Tax Act. Does anyone know which section is applicable if you furnish incorrect information in your reports or certificates?
Sir, misrepresentation of facts in section 270A. It's penalties there.
Yes. Okay. 270A. Okay.
Yes, sir. 200% is there penalty.
Correct. What else? Any other section? See, now 270A, I'm again, it's a matter of the tax. I'm not going into the tax matters. But again, will it not be applicable to the assessee rather than being applicable to a chartered accountant? Because underreporting or misreporting is done by the assessee, not the chartered accountant.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. So I don't think so 270A will be applicable in this particular scenario. Any other section you guys refer to, like, I think you are done already with the income tax. So any other penalty section you see that might be applicable over here? No?
Section 68 to
Section?
Whenever there is an undisclosed credit in the books of accounts,
Okay.
there will be sections like section 68 to 72, where there will be taxed at 60% like that.
Again, okay. So 68 or 72, if you're talking about, that is talking about the tax on the cash credits or, counting that as in your income. That is fine. That will be applicable to the assessee and his income. I'm not talking about assessee here. I'm talking about CAP. So liability of a CAP. So you have to write basically here is section. So if you talk about, there's a general penalty also. Okay. So there's a general penalty under 271J, penalty for furnishing incorrect information in reports or certificates. That is specifically applicable to the person who is submitting or furnishing information in the reports or certificate, like a chartered accountant. Okay. So accountant, merchant banker, registered valuers, all these are covered by section 271J. Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
So that particular section will be applicable over here. Now, apart from that, like there could be, scenario-based sections which might be applicable, but here, like we will write in general sections which are, direct applicable. See, there could be concealment, there could be some other sections which might be applicable based on the type of transactions. So we will not go into the specific, rather we will try to keep general, because here, if you see, not much detail about the transaction is provided in the question. So, for example, section 278, if you try to provide false information and then you try to abate or induce in any manner that the false information is correct, in that case, again, section 278 will also be applicable. So these are the general sections which can be applicable in this scenario, but without going into more specific. Now that is your Income Tax Act and the liability under Income Tax Act. Now coming to the CA Act. Now CA Act, basically, if you talk about schedules, remember, see here, what they are saying is he has sufficient evidence. So the clause which was related to the evidence will not be applicable over here. He has obtained the evidence. Now the question is, here he did not report the credits, unidentified credits in the books of accounts. So unidentified credits were not reported. And in his audit report. Now the question comes is whether this is the material misstatement. Is this a material misstatement? Yes, no?
No, sir. It is not submitted only.
Okay. Anyone else? with a different answer. Is this a material misstatement or this is a fail to disclose material fact?
Actually, in this case, he actually had sufficient evidence to believe that these credits were liable to be taxed. But in order to make his case stronger, he produced the false document and made witness the present false. In this case, he fails to report the material misstatement, obviously. Even though he knows that is he falsely provided the document.
Yes. See here, in this scenario, like there is nothing mentioned about such credit in his audit report. Means plus there are unidentified credits. If you have an unidentified credit which is not applied or not identified, yes, that's a misstatement. So here we have misstatement involved.
Sir, in this case, I feel that second schedule part 1 clause 6 will apply.
Okay. Yes, clause 6 will apply, no doubt in that, but clause 5 will also apply. So here clause 5 and clause 6 both will apply. The reason because the misstatement is also there, plus you have not disclosed a material fact. Material misstatement and material fact both are there. So clause 5, clause 6 will apply. Now, let's say if later on he was like found that like here in this particular scenario, it is said that later on he produces false document and made witness and present false statement. So what for that? So for the false document, false witness, false statement, do you think any clause will be applicable?
Yes, there will be clause 2 in part 2 of first schedule of Chartered Accountants Act 1949. He will be liable to, if he supplies the false information, he will be liable.
Yes. So that is your part 3 first schedule clause 3. Okay. If you supply false information to others, in that case, you will be held guilty of professional misconduct, and that is member in general. So whether in practice or not, it is applicable. So it doesn't make any difference you are in practice or not. So clause 3, part 3, first schedule will also be applicable. Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Clear? Any doubt with this?
So he will not be held grossly negligent.
Yes, he is.
Clause 7, second schedule, part 1.
See, you can say that he did not exercise due diligence. You can also mention that. But here, like again, we don't have any amount involved. We don't have any amount and such details available. That's why to call grossly negligent, we have to specify the amount was very big, or he did not exercise due diligence means he has missed a lot of areas. Okay, that's why we are not reporting or commenting on clause 7 over here. But if you write in your exam, that will not make your answer wrong. Clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So this is if you how to write an answer, simple. In order to write the answer for this particular question, you need to provide different acts, like what is the provisions of different acts, and then PSE method which is there. So let's say for example, Income Tax Act. Okay, but again you need to follow the PSE. You need to specify the sections which are applicable, provisions, and then you need to do the analysis. Okay, again Chartered Accountants Act, clause 5, Part 1 second schedule, clause 6 Part 1 second schedule, then you need to specify these are the provisions which are applicable. And here, should I write the analysis and the conclusion? Answer is no, because we have been only asked about the provisions. So we will not write about the analysis of the conclusion whether he is guilty or not. So it is, you don't have to write whether he is guilty of professional misconduct or not. You have to only provide about the provisions. That's it. Now, let's say, for example, in this scenario, if I write about analysis, if I write about conclusions, 2 additional paragraphs, it will take 10 minutes more or 5 minutes more. When it is not required, if you are investing 10 minutes more in your answer, that is a problem. So always refer or read the question what is asked. Okay?
Yes.
Good. Okay, let us see one more question. Okay, so that we can have a good understanding of the topic. Yeah. So the director discipline, very good question. The director discipline of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India has received the matters in respect of cases of alleged misconduct against CAH, the proprietor of Messrs. HA and Company, chartered accountant, and was found guilty of professional misconduct under Clause 4, Part 1 of Second Schedule of Chartered Accountants Act and Clause 11 of Part 1 of First Schedule of Chartered Accountants Act. And the penalty was imposed by an order passed against him dated 15 June 2024. Against the said order, CEH preferred an appeal with the appellant authority on 5th August 2024 by submitting the statement of appeal along with the application form of appeal. During such appellant proceedings, it was discovered that the said statement of appeal contained some facts which were false to which CAH admitted it to be false and apologized for it. Based on the above stated scenario of the matters placed before the Director's Discipline of the ICAI against CAH, you are required to answer the following. Comments on the violation of the provisions of Chartered Accountant Acts and its schedule thereto by CAH, before which authority the matters of CAH would have been placed and what maximum punishment could have been imposed on him by the said authority in accordance with the CA Act. Has CAH filed an appeal with the appellant authority against the order within the time limit prescribed under the Act? So read the question once again and then try to answer. Come on. Anyone like any answers to this?
He'll be guilty of Schedule 1, Part 3, Clause 3, supplying false information by filing a false affidavit.
You are saying First Schedule Part 3, Clause 3.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Because he supplied false affidavit.
Understood.
Sir, I feel that the part 2, class 3 or part 2 of the second schedule, which is talk whenever we are providing information to the council or the director discipline or board of discipline or the disciplinary commission, we need to give that right information, false information. In this case, while he is appeal to the appellate authority, he provided the false statement. He is guilty actually.
Okay.
As per the class 3 part 2 of the second schedule.
Okay. Understood.
And also it is a matter of the second schedule. He is punished with up to 5 lakhs, or his name of membership will be removed permanently, or the time for his is fit as per the disciplinary committee.
Okay.
But with respect to the timeline, is 90 days is given for appeal.
Okay, very good. Very good. And the third one, yeah, 90 days. Okay. So yes, absolutely correct. See, when I talk about the violation over here, he has submitted false information knowing to be false to the institute. Now, submitting false information knowing to be false, okay, basically goes to the part 2, clause 3 of second schedule. See this. False information provided to institute, part 2, second schedule. Okay, this is the clause 3. So here in this scenario also, he has provided false information knowing to be false. That's why he later on admitted, yes, it is false and apologized for it. So that clause 3 will be applicable over here. That we understood. Fine. Now, second question. Before which authority the matters of CAH would have been placed, and what maximum punishment could have been imposed on him by said authority in accordance with the CAA Act? Now, to understand this, everyone should come to the study material page 19.40. Okay, I will explain you through study material page number 19.40. There's a wonderful chart given. So we'll discuss that. See how it works. Now I'll explain you why there are two schedules, what is the basic difference between them. Now, what happens is whenever a complaint is received, prima facie, the complaint is looked into by disciplinary directorate. And disciplinary directorate, forms a prima facie opinion. Okay, now, like whether he is guilty or not guilty. If he is a guilty, and if the misconduct is with respect to the first schedule, the matter will go to the board of discipline. If the matter is of the misconduct for the second schedule, the matter will be placed before the disciplinary committee. Now, let's say, for example, if it is both first and second, then again it will go to the disciplinary committee. Okay. And if it is not guilty, then all the information and complaints are submitted to board of discipline. Now, board of discipline basically, then looks into, okay, like prima facie opinion, not guilty, irrespective of the schedule. If the prima facie opinion is not guilty, then board will look into that matter, that okay, whether it is guilty or not, and accordingly, board will take up the matter. So let's say, for example, if the matter is pertaining to both schedules, it will go to disciplinary committee. Disciplinary committee will accept or either reject the prima facie opinion of the disciplinary directorate. They will conduct inquiry if they have accepted the prima facie opinion. If they have not, accepted, then they will close the matter. Now, if a person or if a member of institute or chartered accountant in practice, if he is found guilty for the first schedule, in that case, the punishments are reprimand the member, remove the name of member from up to the period of 3 months in the register, okay, impose a fine up to 1 lakh rupees. But if he is guilty of second schedule or both, in that case, you can reprimand the member, you can permanently remove the name. Instead of, up to period of 3 months, here you can permanently remove the name. Okay. So, permanent removal of the name is there. Here it was up to period of 3 months, removal of name. And then impose the penalty of 5 lakhs where it was 1 lakh. So this is a difference from first schedule and second schedule. And then everyone has the period of 90 days to make an appeal to the appellant authority. So you will be given a period of 90 days under which you can appeal to the appellant authority. Now, appellant authority can confirm, modify, statutize the order, can impose, reduce, or enhance the penalty. It's not necessary they can only reduce. They can enhance the penalty also. They can modify the order also. Or they can remit the case back for reconsideration. So, appellant authority has such powers. They can, accordingly, they can deal with the particular case. Clear?
Yes, sir. The case will be goes to the director discipline.
Yes.
The director discipline, he will on prima basis he will check. If it is not guilty, he will refer to board of discipline. Yeah.
Accordingly, it works.
Yeah, accordingly it lowers. Actually, if it is pertaining to first schedule, board of discipline will check and scrutinize all the cases. If it is pertaining to second schedule, the disciplinary committee will check.
Absolutely correct.
Yeah.
It is also both. Disciplinary committee is falling in second schedule or both?
Both, yes. See, whenever it is, second schedule coming into the picture, either separately standalone basis or with first schedule, disciplinary committee will come.
Yeah, on the combination of both.
Yeah. Any doubt?
Okay.
No. Okay, sir. Go ahead.
See, if it is not guilty, then if it is pertaining to the second schedule, then if the case is rejected, then those cases, the second schedule will refer to the disciplinary committee. Otherwise, the director discipline itself, they will review the case and close it.
No. See, what
not
is
guilty case?
See, not guilty case. What happens is, if the board of discipline is of the opinion, no, I do not accept not guilty and as a prima facie opinion. That means here it says that the prima facie board of discipline feels that okay, he is guilty, and rejecting the prima facie opinion of the not guilty. Okay. In that case, what they will say is they will go back to the director discipline and they will advise director discipline, okay, director discipline, we feel that no, he is guilty. Your prima facie opinion of not being guilty is incorrect. We would recommend you to do a further investigation. And then, based on that further investigation, submit the case either to the disciplinary committee if it is second schedule or both, or to the board of discipline it is first schedule or both, or first schedule.
So here mentioned if it is a first schedule, he may proceed with the matter if it is allied to the first schedule, which means the director discipline itself he will investigate and settle the matter. Sorry, it is very clear. If it is pertaining to second schedule, he will refer to the disciplinary committee. That is straightforward. With respect to on the first schedule, it's mentioned that he will proceed. He means the director discipline alone.
See, now both options are available, but generally, if I talk about, okay, in this particular scenario, generally it is forwarded to the board of discipline, but yes, he can proceed by himself also. That's why the word may is used.
That may only is confusing me.
No. That's why, you generally, that's why the word may is used. See, because here the board of discipline is asking him to, check and investigate further. Then why again he will forward to the board of discipline? So on the board of discipline's instruction only, he is doing further investigation. Okay. So board of discipline has already seen the matter. Now based on his board of discipline, recommendations only, the further discussions are or further investigation is being happening. And once it is done, the matter is again, at the end is placed before the board of discipline for the final, what you can say, outcome.
So in this case, in the first schedule, he places directly before the Board of Discipline. In those matters, the following before second schedule, it is placed either with the disciplinary committee or Board of Discipline.
Mm-hmm.
Is it correct?
So for second schedule, disciplinary committee only, not Board of Discipline.
Yeah, second schedule. But in case of first schedule, he can place it either with the Board of Discipline or disciplinary committee. Either.
No, either. It's not either. It is placed before the Board of Discipline.
Then it says falling. Acha, it is only because if it is falling both in first and second schedule, then it will go to disciplinary committee.
Yes.
Thank you.
Any other doubt?
No doubt, sir. Thank you, sir.
Yeah. So this is how, once the allegations are there, once the inquiry is done, this is how it works. Very important chart. Very important. Okay. Now we'll go back to the question that was there. If you see in this question, again, as I said, clause 3, part 2 of second schedule will be applicable because knowingly providing false information, which is there. Okay. Then CAH was found guilty of clause 4 of part 1 of second schedule and clause 11 of part 1 of first schedule. Now second plus first schedule both are there. Then as a result, disciplinary committee will come into the place or come into the picture. And what are the minimum penalties which can be imposed? Reprimand the member, remove the name permanently, or up to 5 lakh rupees penalty. Timeline for filing an appeal is 90 days from the date of order. Okay. So here the order was passed on 15th June 2024. From here we have 90 days. Okay. The appeal was filed on 5th August 2024. So accordingly, we need to see whether the 5th August is within the 90 days time frame or not. Okay, so it is within the 90 days time frame. That's why we could say that, okay, yes, it is filed within the time period. So from 15th June, 90 days to 5th August.
So there must be provisions for condonation of delay also, no, sir, in these appeals. Provisions for condonation of delay.
Yes, they are, but again, that is something dependent upon case to case basis. But there are
reasons to be given.
Yes. So if you see, there is basically when I talk about appeal, it goes with the section 22G of the Act. Okay, appeal to the authority. Now over there is a second provision which talks about that, okay, after expiry of the 90 days also, the appeal may be admitted, provided there was a sufficient or, provided that the appellant authority is satisfied that there was a sufficient cause for the delay. Clear? Any doubt? No?
No, sir.
Okay. Let's take one more question so that, again, like have a good understanding of this particular topic. Okay. Let's take a case study type of scenario. Very good case study type of scenario. It will cover a lot of things. Okay. Messrs. Aim and Company, Charter Accountant, is a newly started firm. Their first assignment was to conduct a statutory audit of Messrs. DM Crackers Limited, a cracker manufacturing company. Since it was their first audit, okay, the partners immediately accepted the work. Without paying attention to the relevant provisions, they started the work. They started their audit work from 25th May 2023 for the financial year and ended on 31st March 2023. Okay. During the course of audit, the auditors requested for the financial of preceding previous year along with the details of the transactions till 25th May of the current year. The management, however, argued both the details are out of scope of the audit and hence told that they cannot provide the details. However, after repeated requests from the auditors, they finally provided in September 23. It was suspected that the senior accountant could have indulged in fraud amounting to rupees 115 lakh. However, on further investigation by management, it was found that there was a gross mistake on the part of accountant who had wrongly debited and credited certain accounts by mistake, which amounted to 17 lakh rupees. The company provided proper and correct evidence for the balance amount, and hence the auditor was strongly convinced that there has no fraud taken. Due to the absence of an audit committee, the auditor suggested to the director of finance to replace the existing accountant as he was poor in basic accounting skills. Okay. Initially, the company thought of handing over the tax audit work to the previous auditor. However, since they had a bad experience last year, in form of an argument regarding the contents to be included in the tax audit report, especially with respect to the disclosures to the key ratios, it was decided the AAM company shall also act as a tax auditors. After the conclusions of the audit, Mr. Sham, one of the partners of the firm, was confused as to whether the firm could be held guilty of professional misconduct for possible violation of provisions of CAI. He contacted Mr. Ganjam, his partner, to get the clarification about the doubt. Messrs. P Limited, a recruitment agency, was contacted Mr. Sham regarding a vacancy in one of the leading manufacturing company. Eventually, Mr. Sham resigned as a partner of AAM company and joined the company. The agency raised an invoice for the service rendered by him, which amounted to 0.2% of the CTC offered. Mr. Sham agreed to pay the amount. However, since his friend was a manager at the agency, he received full discount on the invoice. Angered by the act of resignation, Mr. Gancham filed a complaint with the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India, stating that Mr. Sham has violated the provisions of CAI Act and Gancham is guilty of professional misconduct. Okay, sorry, and he is guilty of professional misconduct. Having come to know that Mr. Gancham was one who has filed a complaint against him, Mr. Sham decided to take revenge. While thinking for a suitable reason to file the complaint, he recalled the fact that Mr. Gancham was engaged as an registration authority for obtaining digital signatures for his client. Quoting the same, he filed a complaint against Mr. Gancham stating that he was guilty of professional misconduct for violating the provision of CAI. Okay, I'll give you a minute to read the whole question again. Okay, go through this particular case scenario again. Okay, and then we will go to the questions. Just read for a minute. Let me know once you're done. I'll scroll down.
Done, sir.
Yes.
Okay. Now this is the next part of the case study. Done? Okay. Let's go to the question now. So the first question is basically an MCQ, which is what can you infer from the situation given in point 1? Okay. The point 1 was about the management asking, auditor asking detail from the management. The management was right. Both the details asked by the auditor were out of the scope of audit. Okay. The auditor have a right to ask only details of preceding previous year and not the details of transaction occurred till 15th May for the current year. Option C, both the auditors and management have a right to ask both details and right not to provide the right to not provide both details. Fourth, the auditors have a right to ask both details. The management contention that it is out of scope of audit is wrong. Now, what is the correct answer?
D.
Sir, answer D is the correct answer.
Do you think auditor have a right to ask about the details?
Yes, sir.
And can anyone tell me why auditor is required? Like, see, right is one thing, requirement is another thing. Okay, let's say, for example, we are not talking here about this particular question, this question number 1. But do you think is there a requirement for the auditor to ask this detail?
Yes, sir.
And why so?
Because it pertains to the audit of current year.
Correct. See, now here the question was that auditor requested financial of the preceding years along with the details transaction till 25th of May of the current year. Like they were exceeding beyond the ended on 31st March 2023. They were asking detail 25th of the current year. Okay. So they were asking after the financial year close. So do you think it is required? Right is separate thing. I'm not talking about right. I'm talking about requirement. Do you think auditor is required to ask this detail?
Yes, sir. For events occurring after balance sheet, everything he has to see, no? For that.
Absolutely correct. So the requirement comes from the SA 560 subsequent events. For that, you need to ask the information which is there till the signing of your audit report and the financial statement. Okay. Similarly, if you have a requirement, then you might have also right also. So from the requirement only the right comes. So in this particular scenario, yes, the correct option is D, not A, B, and C. Okay, clear with that?
Yes, sir.
Okay, now let's see the second question. Messrs. A&M Company guilty of professional misconduct. Is Messrs. A&M Company guilty of professional misconduct? for violating any of the provisions of Chartered Accountants Act? If so, as per which clause? Clause 1, Part 1, second schedule, Clause 8, Part 1, first schedule, Clause 2, Part 2, second schedule, or the firm has not violated. So again, I will take you to the top, okay, where the details are given. The details are given in this particular area only. Go through it and then let me know. Okay. Is AAA&PE company guilty of professional misconduct? If yes, then which clause?
Sir, class 8 will be applicable. See, in the first paragraph, he talks about he need to comply without paying attention to the relevant procedure, which means without communicating to the previous auditor. Then option B will be correct.
Okay.
What are the options, sir?
Options are, just let me show you the options. So these are the options. Clause 1, Part 1, second schedule. Clause 8, Part 1, first schedule. Clause 2, Part 2, second schedule. And D option, the firm has not violated. What do you think? Anyone? Like we have received one answer of clause 8. Rest? No answers? Okay, now what is clause 8? Can anyone tell me? Like you have answered, that is perfectly fine. Apart from you, can anyone tell me what is clause 8? Quick revision.
Accepting without communicating with the previous auditor.
Very good. So if you see in this particular example, they are saying that okay, they have accepted without, if the partners immediately accepted the work without paying attention to the relevant procedures. That means it was communication with the previous auditor was not done. Plus 139 and 140 were not looked into. So clause 8 will be there, yes. Clause 9 also will be there. But having said that, there is no option for the clause 9. That's why we will only select clause 8.
So what about the figures in the financial statement? There were
Figures, which one?
so they found out that there were fraud of 115 lakhs, but company provided proper and current evidence for the balance account. So it means the company provided evidence for the remaining 98 lakhs?
No,
because
see,
there was a mistake of 17 lakhs out of 115 lakhs, which was due to the accountant mistake. But for the remaining amount, the line is company provided proper and correct evidence for the balance amount. This balance is 98 lakhs, sir?
Yes, 115 minus 17.
Okay, sir.
So, AIM and chartered accountants are guilty of clause 8 and clause 9. Clear?
Yes, yes, sir.
Okay. Now going to next question. Is Mr. Sham guilty of professional misconduct? If so, as per which clause? is Shyam guilty of professional misconduct?
Sir, please goes to that
Yeah.
case.
Case study?
Yeah, I want to study the case study.
Yeah, here it is. Quickly, will he be guilty of professional misconduct? If yes, then why? Mr. Sham, and we are talking about Mr. Sham.
The answer, no, the answer, sir.
Yeah. Now the given answers are, just a minute. Wait a minute, just give me a minute. It is, yes, here it is. So A, clause 1, part 1, first schedule. B, clause 2, part 2, second schedule. C, not guilty. D, clause 1, part 2, first
B,
schedule.
B, sir, B.
Okay. Clause 2, part 2, second schedule.
Yes, sir. Answer B.
Okay. Anyone else? So clause 2, part 2, second schedule, correct?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So let's go to the clause 2, part 2, second schedule. What is clause 2, part 2, second schedule? It is disclosing of information, confidentiality.
Sir,
Clause 2, part 2.
sir, my thing is that part 1, class 1, part 2, first schedule.
So, yeah. So now let's go
Class
to the
1.
clause. Yeah.
Yeah.
Clause 1, sir. Clause 1. Yes.
Class 1. Answer D.
Clause 1, part 2, first schedule. Agrees to pay any
Yes,
amount of employment to others. Okay.
yes, sir.
Now, coming back to the question over here, if you see in this particular scenario, here, now you are saying clause 1. Again, I have not given my answer. Just read this particular part again and tell me clause 1, part 2, first schedule will be applicable or not. Just read once again.
Sir, actually he agreed to pay, right? He 0.2% he agreed to pay. Then definitely the class 1 of the first schedule will be applicable. Part 2.
Anyone else with a different answer?
So he agreed to pay the amount, but he received full discount on the invoice. So he didn't pay any amount. So how he can be liable
Okay.
under this clause?
Oh, it is agrees to pay. Whether it is the correct answer or not, but if the clause is agrees to pay. Even if he has agreed to pay, whether he finally paid or not, he will be held guilty. Whether this clause is applicable or not, that is another matter. But since it is agrees to pay,
Whether it is directly or indirectly also it will apply. Like in this case, he agreed to pay. Definitely class 1 will applicable, sir.
Okay. Now, if I
service,
talk about, yeah.
service,
Yes.
question, employment to others, amount of employment to others.
Sorry, what you were saying?
I was just repeating the clause, sir, that it is agreed to pay amount of employment to others.
Okay, yep. Absolutely correct. So, clause 1 talks about that if he pays, allows, or agrees to pay. So, agree to pay is something covered in clause 1 that we have seen. Okay. Agreed to pay is already covered. Now, what? Either directly or indirectly to any person. Mrs. Hires P Limited falls under the definition of any person. No doubt in that. Any share in the emoluments of the employment undertaken by him. Now, any share. Now, here the 2% of CTC. If you see the 2% of the CTC is demonstrating that these are the part of the amount he is receiving from the employment based on the employment which is undertaken by him. That means he is agreeing to pay to any person any share in the emoluments of the employment undertaken by him. So clause 1 part 2 first schedule will be applicable. Clear?
Yes, sir.
So based on these three things, we can say that yes, clause 1 will be applicable. It doesn't make any difference that he is receiving discounts subsequently. So answer to this question was clause 1, part 2, first schedule. Okay. Now coming to fourth question. Is Mr. Gancham guilty of professional misconduct? If yes, under which clause? So the options are clause 11, part 3 of second schedule, okay, or clause 1 of part 2 of second schedule. Let's go to the question again and read once again. So this is the part where Mr. Gancham is, about him is described. Anyone? Whether he is guilty or not?
What are the options, sir?
Options are no, Mr. Gancham is not guilty. He is guilty as per clause 11, part 1, first schedule, part 3, second schedule, clause 1, part 2, second schedule.
So he will not be held guilty, sir, in my view.
Okay, and why so?
No, sir, but he has only filed a complaint.
Actually,
complaint. Okay.
Yeah, he filed only the complaint to the Institute of ICAI that the Shyam is violated that supervision. But for complaining, why that guilty will apply to this person?
No, there is more than the complaint. If you see, while thinking of a suitable reason to file a complaint, he recalled that Mr. Gancham was engaged as registration authority for obtaining digital signature for his client.
Okay.
Now tell me, going as or engaging as registration authority for obtaining digital signature for his client, whether he will be guilty of professional misconduct.
Sir, getting the digital signature and providing it is a normal activity of the business. For that, he is not did normal work of that person, then how we can say that he is guilty? No, sir. I don't find any mistake on.
So acting as a registration authority is fine, you are saying?
Sir, this is a normal thing. He on this position, did his work. That's it. He is not violating on this part.
See, in case whenever
I feel that there is no misconduct.
See, whenever we have to provide, let's say this is an MCQ, but what if this was a question with respect to descriptive one? At that point in time, it becomes imperative to understand why he is not guilty, how we can write that. Okay. So that is something we need to then understand in that point in time. Anyone, why he is not guilty, if you are saying, or if he is guilty, then under which clause? Anyone else? No?
Sir, if he engages in any business or occupation other than the profession of chartered accountant, unless permitted by the council so to engage, there will be some clause in the first schedule.
Sorry, I was not able to understand. Can you repeat your question again?
In the first schedule, clause 11, there is a clause that is engages in any business or occupation other than the profession of chartered accountant.
Yes.
Whether that will be applicable.
Sir, I feel it is a management consultant service, what he is doing. So, in that situation, it's not applicable. You see, he is not at all guilty.
Okay. Now, okay, perfectly fine. I'll tell you certain things, and then we will take up on that. We will discuss on that particular part. See, why he is not guilty. First of all, we need to understand that. Okay, if a chartered accountant is engaged, okay, in the practice of, or he engages himself as a registration authority for obtaining digital certificates, digital signatures for his client, okay, then he is, like he is not guilty, or he is not, violating anything, because there is the decision of the ethical standard board. Recently, ethical standard board specified that this particular part will be part of the management consultancy service. Yes, a chartered accountant in practice may engage himself as a registration authority for obtaining digital signatures. That is perfectly fine. That is allowed. As a result, okay, here in this particular scenario, based on the decision of the ethical standard board, or you can say about, falls under management consultancy service, it is perfectly fine. And as a result, Mr. Gancham is not guilty. Clear?
Yes.
Any further doubts to this? Any doubts?
So do we have to, remember or look into for some decisions of the board, standard board?
Yes, I would recommend to do that. So recent decisions of the ethical standard board are already given on the ICAI website. So if I just show you quickly. Okay. Let me share. Yeah. Okay. So these are the recent decisions which are there of the Ethical Standard Board. Okay. They will provide you a good understanding what is permissible for a member in practice, what is not permissible for a member in practice. So I would recommend to go through these one. Okay. And understand what is given, what is not given, what is permissible, what is not permissible. For example, statutory auditor of an entity is not permitted to engage in an assignment of compilation engagement of that entity as per SRS 4410. So a lot of things are there. Refer this, go through this, and understand these things, so you will have a good understanding.
Sir, also it is noted a recent decision of ethical standard board in our study material itself, page number 19.155. There
Yes.
are around 45 decisions they updated in it.
Yes. These are the decisions only that I'm showing you over here.
Okay. Okay, sir.
So this is part of your study material also. Okay. I'll shift back to the
So, sir, what is mystery audit?
mystery audit. Okay.
Mystery audit.
See, again, like this is not a defined term anywhere, mystery audit, but in common parlance, what mystery audit happens? Okay. It's a kind of a audit where you do a market research. Okay. Where, like, you will be hired as an anonymous person and anonymous, not known to anyone, and you have to go and do the research. You have to get the details without knowing anything, so no one knows that you are an auditor or you are the person who is doing research. Okay, and you have to get the details about a particular, what you say, a product, business operation, or something like that. Let's say I hire you. I am developing a product. I am a company. I hire you as a mystery auditor, and I say, okay, go and check what other companies are doing in this particular area. What other companies are, what you can say, doing for similar product. So go do secret shopping, strategic evaluation. A lot of things are there.
It's kind of a detective agency. Detective.
Yes, you can say that.
Okay. Yeah, when I was reading couple of days before, I could not remember this.
Okay. So any further doubts? Any further questions on this? Very detailed case studies, very good one.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. If no further doubts, no further questions, let's take a quick 5 minutes break. After the break, we'll gather back and continue the rest of the topics.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Let's take a 5-minute break. Okay. So we were discussing questions, we discussed schedules. Now we will go to other topic, other matters that we need to discuss about. Okay. Basically, when I say, the chapter apart from the schedules, there are multiple things that we need to discuss, and I will take you through it, those particular topics. So apart from the schedule, we have code of ethics. Now, code of ethics is divided into 4 parts. So even 5 parts. The part 4 is divided into 1. So the part 1 talks about the fundamental principles. Part 2 talks about professional accountants in service. Part 3 talks about professional accountant in public practice. Part 4 is independence for audit and review engagement. And part 5 or 4B, you can say that it is about the independence for the assurance engagement. This is how your code of ethics is divided into 5 parts. 1, 2, 3, 4A, 4B. Okay. Now, why it is necessary to understand? Because we will go through these parts. There are certain topics we will go through these. For example, NOCLAR. It falls part of part 2 and part 4. Okay. Part 1, fundamental principles. Now we'll go to the fundamental principles. Then independence related requirement in part 4A, we will go through that. So there are multiple things that we will go through from these parts. That's why it's necessary for us to understand how these parts, our code of ethics, is divided. Okay. So let's talk about fundamental principles. There are basically 5 important fundamental principles, and they have a subsection in your code of ethics: integrity, objectivity, professional competency and due care, confidentiality, professional behavior. When I talk about integrity, it is about being, straightforward, honest in all your professional dealings. Don't go round and round. Straightforward. That is subsection 111. Then comes the objectivity. You don't have to compromise your judgment, professional judgment. You don't have to be biased or affected by the undue influence or, some pressure. That is subsection 112. Professional competency and due care, same, due diligence, professional competency, due care, subsection 113. Confidentiality, the name speaks for himself, subsection 114. And the professional behavior. Okay. That is subsection 115. Now, these are the fundamental principles a member, a CA, has to adhere to. There is no options, exceptions, or anything there. If there are scenarios which cause a threat to the fundamental principle, then they are required to be dealt with accordingly. Okay. Now, which are the threats which can impact the fundamental principles? So there are these 5 threats. Self-interest threat. That means you have an interest, inappropriate, connection with that particular, engagement, assignment, entity, which is creating self-interest threat. That you have an interest and you are then, performing the work of that particular entity engagement. Self-review threat. You are reviewing your own work. Advocacy threat. Advocacy threat is you are defending the client for which you have done the work, or you are promoting the client who has employed you or who has given the work. Familiarity threat is kind of a threat where you know the client for a very long period. Now, either you are sympathetic to their work or their interest, or you are connected in such a way that you have to maintain that close relationship or very long relationship. And intimidation threat. Simple example, like if you client says you that if you provide a qualified opinion, we'll remove you. That is intimidation. Threatening, exercising undue influence. So there are scenarios where these 5 threats can come into play, or a combination of 5 threats can come into play. Okay, and they can pose a threat to your fundamental principles that we discussed in the previous slide. Clear? Any doubt to this?
No, sir.
Yeah. Now, let's say if I'll give you an example over here. Okay. like, let's say, for example, okay, you are, doing an audit of a particular client. Okay, you are doing an audit of a particular client. Now that client suddenly comes up and says, okay, no, do one thing, you do not check these areas. Okay, like inventory and important areas. If you will check, we will change the auditor. We will remove you. Classic example of intimidation threat. Classic example that if you check these areas, we'll remove you. Okay. So this is how, intimidation threat or these threat works. So we will take one question also on this as an example so that we can understand this particular concept in a very good way. So the question is, TK Associates, a chartered accountant firm, has been appointed as an auditor of the company for financial year 23-24. It consists of two partners, CAT and CAK. CAT is a brother of father of the finance director of the company, BAC Limited. CAK is an old friend of the finance director of the company, BAC Limited. What kind of ethical threat is associated with the appointment of TK Associate as the auditor of BAC Limited? So
familiarity.
Familiarity threat, sir.
Anyone with a different answer? No? Yes, absolutely correct. C, familiarity threat. Reason because CAT is a brother of finance director and CAK is an old friend. So they know the finance director since very long time, or either they are in they have some relationship with the finance director. That makes the familiarity threat in this particular scenario. Self-review, I would not say reason because the finance director is not the any relevant person in the TK Associates. So it's not a self-review or self-interest threat. Self-review basically when you review your own work. It is not the scenario over here. Advocacy threat is you promote the client. That is also not the case in this particular scenario. So familiarity threat is the correct answer. Okay. So that was a very good example of the threats to the fundamental principle. Now, whenever there is a threat to a fundamental principle, the procedure here is, first of all, you identify the threat, which type of threat it is, why the threat it is to the fundamental principle. Identify that. Once you identify, then basically what you do, you evaluate why there is a threat and how much detailed the threat is. Okay. You need to evaluate the threat and then you need to make the threat, bring the threat at the acceptable level. Okay. So identify, evaluate, and address. I call this particular part as an IEA approach. So this is nothing but IEA approach in this particular scenario, that identify, evaluate, and address. Okay, this is how you respond to the threat. Clear? Any doubts? Okay.
No, sir. Thanks for IEA.
Yeah.
So we are going to use these in our answers also. Do we need to?
Question asked, yes. If question is asked, yes.
Direct question, I understand, sir. If direct question is there, but in terms of questions on professional ethics, do we need to quote these codes and all?
See.
Integrity. He's conducting a violation of objectivity. There is a violation of integrity or this. Do we? I mean, can we write all this, or don't we need to write?
Again, see, it depends upon the question. What is asked? Let's say if the question is not on the threats to the fundamental principle, then there is no point of writing this. Or if the question is not on the fundamental principles, it is something else, then there is no point in writing it, because you will invest your time on the answer which is not required. So I hope I have provided the answer to your query.
Yes, but we can write if it in a particular problem, we feel that we can introduce threat, these self-review threat or something like that. It is coming. We can say there is a violation of these codes or these principles.
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely.
Additionally to the violation of the specific provisions of the Act.
Yes, absolutely. Yes. If you want, you can write. Not an issue. Okay. Sorry. So that was your how to evaluate the threat, basically. How to understand what is the threat and how to address that threat. Now, I would talk about one question over here. We have a one good question. Mr. Q, signing partner as ABC Associate, was responsible for statutory auditor of EMEA Limited, a company involved in manufacturing of motor vehicles and automotive spare parts. Mr. Q did not have prior experience of auditing the company which was involved in the manufacturing of motor vehicles and automotive spare parts. During the audit team identified the companies paying excessive price for raw material like steel and iron compared to prices on London Metal Exchange. This resulted in an increase of manufacturing cost. When Mr. Q took up these matters with the management for discussion, management pressured Mr. Q to agree with their way. Management also claimed that Mr. Q is new to the sector and management has hired experienced buyers and brokers who are brokering best price for these metals for the company. Mr. Q also hired a professional expert in the subject matter, and the auditor, and the auditor's expert opinion was in line with Mr. Q's opinion. When Mr. Q presented the auditor's expert opinion, management threatened Mr. Q with the removal from the engagement to change the statutory auditor. In light of the above scenario, kindly evaluate whether Mr. Q is facing any circumstances which may create threat to compliance to fundamental principles. You have the options and pretty straightforward, simple. Which kind of threat it is?
Intimidation.
Sir, EDC, sir, intimidation threat. Right
Yes,
away.
absolutely correct. Straightforward. Yes, it is an intimidation threat. Option E. Mr. Q, see here. Now, this is one step ahead of that particular part. Here we discuss about Mr. Q facing intimidation threat. One step ahead is what Mr. Q should do when a threat to compliance is identified. Also suggest some safeguard to mitigate the above threat to compliance with the fundamental principles. So what Mr. Q should do? Anyone? What is the option from the given option?
B.
Sir, answer.
Yeah.
Answer B, sir. The professional accountant has to determine. He has to bring down to the acceptable levels. Otherwise, he can withdraw the engagement as well.
Yep.
Management should not ask them to withdraw it. It is our responsibility.
Okay. Okay. So, yes, the option B is the correct option. If the professional accountant determines that the threat is there, then bring it to an acceptable level or reduce them by eliminating them. Okay. So, B is the correct answer. Now, one important area that I want to discuss about is subsection 604, that is the tax services. There was a recent change, like not a recent, but there is a change in the tax services, and this gives rise to the threat to the fundamental principles. See, what are the tax services? Tax return preparation, tax calculation for accounting entries, tax planning and advisory service, tax valuation, assistance in tax disputes. Okay, these are some tax services. Now, what subsection 604 of the Code of Ethics, whenever I use the term subsection 604, it is of the Code of Ethics. Now, what subsection 604 says that whenever you are providing tax services, always evaluate whether you are allowed to provide that tax service to your audit client, because it can result in the either advocacy threat, self-review threat. For example, tax calculation for accounting entries. If the client has hired me for tax calculation for accounting entries, it may result into a self-review threat because I am the one who is suggesting accounting entries based on the for tax calculations. Okay. I'm doing the tax calculation and suggesting accounting entries, and when I'm doing the audit, I'm reviewing the same self-review threat. So accordingly, I need to check whether my services are creating any threat to the fundamental principles. For example, there are non-negotiable boundaries that you cannot provide those services to your audit client, like material tax calculations, advocacy in material tax disputes, tax advice dependent on questionable accounting. So you cannot provide these services to your audit clients. Apart from that, let's say if you are providing, tax dispute or assistance in the tax dispute, it is a high risk area. Means there is a high risk to the fundamental principles. You have to adopt, safeguards already in the place to address these things. Okay. So accordingly, you need to check whether these are the prohibited or non-negotiable boundary services, or these are the high risk or medium risk areas where we need to employ safeguard and we can provide the services. Clear? Any doubt with respect to this? Okay. The next point that I want to discuss with is very important part. It is a non-compliance with laws and regulations. So the part 1 for the code of ethics, we are done with that. Now I'll shift to the part 2, part 3, okay, of the code of ethics. Part 2 basically talks about, professional accountant in service, and part 3 talks about professional accountant in public practice. Now there is a section 260 and section 360, which talks about NOCLAR. What is NOCLAR? NOCLAR talks about non-compliance with laws and regulations. And it says that there is a responsibility of the professional accountant in public practice and professional accountant in service when they identify non-compliance with laws and regulations. Okay. So whenever they identify non-compliance with laws and regulations, basically at that point in time, what they need to do is, there are certain guidelines given. For example, in case of audit of a listed entity, okay, section 360 applies to the audit of listed entity only. So it says that whenever a accountant in public practice identifies non-compliance with laws and regulations, he has to report to the management or those charged with governance. He has to consult with them. He has to provide the relevant information, and he needs to check for whether it has been, complied with or not, whether the non-compliance is still continuing, what are the what are the consequences of non-compliance. Similar way, the responsibility is also placed on the senior professional accountant when it comes to the senior professional accountant working in a particular company. Over there, the senior professional accountant, when he identifies non-compliance with laws and regulations, he has to speak to the relevant person in the organization, management, top management, leadership, those charged with governance, about that non-compliance. He has to make sure that steps are taken to mitigate that non-compliance. If it is a continuing non-compliance, then the steps should be taken immediately. If it was done already, like it is done and dusted non-compliance, then he needs to make sure that the corrective actions should be taken. For example, booking provision for the penalties or applying for the condonation or something like that. Okay. So the senior professional accountant, has a responsibility to discuss the matter within the organization and get it resolved as soon as possible. Now, coming to the part like SA 250. SA 250 is on the similar grounds, laws and regulations applicable to an audit of a financial statement. Over there, auditor is required to look into the laws and regulations. That is there, perfectly fine, yes. But that is applicable only to the audit. Whereas when I talk about the NOCLAR, that is section 360, 260, they are applicable not only to the audit, they are applicable to all professional accountant, whether service, in practice, assurance engagements. Okay. So a professional accountant not doing a, like, let's say senior professional accountant in service, there is no question of engagement. There is no question of assurance involved. So it is altogether applicable, irrespective of what kind of services he is doing into. Okay. So NOCLAR or section subsection 360, 260 has a wider applicability compared to SA 250. Any doubt with respect to this one? Very important part. No? Okay. Let me proceed then. Now we will deal, or we will discuss, we will do a quick revision of the certain sections of the CA Act. Okay. Disability, section 8, disability or the disqualification for the purpose of membership. It quickly says that if you are not attained the age of 21, if you are the unsound mind, if you are undischarged insolvent, if you are discharged insolvent but has not obtained the certificate from the court for being discharged of your insolvency, and that insolvency was caused by misfortune, not by fraud. Okay. If you have been convicted by a competent court, where you have been imprisoned, where you have been, like punished with an imprisonment period not relevant for the imprisonment. If you have been removed from the membership for being guilty for professional or other misconduct, in those scenarios, you become disqualified for the membership. That is your section 8. Okay. So 21, unsound mind, undischarged, discharged but no certificate, convicted and removed. So these are the areas where person cannot apply for the membership. Again, any doubts? Okay. Section 24 of Charter Accountants Act. Okay. What Section 24 talks about basically? Section 24 basically talks about that, like, it's talked about, using the designation of a charter accountant. Okay. So the designation that you are using as a charter accountant, like, basically, where you are allowed, where you are not allowed. Okay. And what designation you can use. If you claim, if you claim to be a member, but you are not a member, in that case, you will be held guilty. Okay. So that is section 24 of the basically CA Act. Sorry. Now, if you are not a member and still if you use the designation of a chartered accountant, or you represent yourself as a member of the institute, you will be punishable with the fine of rupees 1,000 for the first conviction, or for the subsequent conviction you will be fined for the 5,000 rupees. Okay. Or imprisonment, which may extend to the 6 months. If you claim that you are a member of institute or use the designation of a chartered accountant when you are not. Even this is applicable being a member of the institute but not having a certificate of practice, and you represent yourself that you are a practicing chartered accountant. Okay. The same is applicable. So section 24 talks about penalty for falsely claiming to be a member of the institute when you are not there. Clear? Any doubt? Okay.
So,
now, a very important topic that I want to take up is the definition of deemed to be in practice. Okay. Definition of deemed to be in practice is covered by section 2.2. Now, section 2, subsection 2 of Charter Accountants Act, okay, specifies what is deemed to be in practice. And why this is required to be understood is because for the application of the fellow, you have to show, you have to demonstrate you have been in practice for the continuous period of 5 years. Over there, this concept comes into the place to be in practice, deemed to be in practice as per section 2.2 of the Chartered Accountants Act. Now, what it says that a member of the institute shall deemed to be in practice when he individually or in the partnership with other chartered accountant in practice, okay, or with other such recognized member of the recognized professional bodies, okay, recognized professions. Remember regulation 53A and 53B. If you perform these kind of services or you provide these services which are mentioned below, in that case, you will be counted as deemed to be in practice. Now, what are these? Remember, AAPM, that is accounting, engages himself in the practice of accounting. Another A, offers to perform service involving audit verification. So either accounting, either audit, or you render professional services with related to the accounting, recording, presentation. Okay. Or you render management consultancy service, which is render other such services as the opinion of the council may be rendered by a chartered accountant in practice. Okay. So if you provide any of the AAPM, in that case, you will be counted as a deemed to be in practice. Now, what are management consultancy service? So there is a list given in your study material for the management consultancy service. And that is a very important list that you should go through. So I request everyone to come on page number 19.28 in your study material. I will not go through the list again, okay? But this is the list on page number 19.28, which talks about management consultancy service. These are the services which are management consultancy services. If you provide these services, then you are considered to be providing management consultancy services. Last part is admin service. Admin service is also part of management consultancy service. Now, what is the admin services? Again, there is a list, examples of the admin services. Okay. So if you provide any such service, it is counted as a management consultancy. Clear? Any doubt with management consultancy? Any doubt? Okay. Now the question comes is about management consultancy service. So I get a lot of questions on this particular part on management consultancy service. Okay. Now the question comes is like, can a chartered accountant provide management consultancy service? Because under Companies Act, it is not allowed to provide other services under section 144. Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Then how can a chartered accountant provide management consultancy service?
Only few services are restricted as per 144.
Okay.
Not all.
So for that few services, can you provide those few services? Like it is permissible under section 224, but it is not permissible under this Companies Act. Then what you will choose?
Say, for example, the statutory auditor of the company cannot do the investment advisory service on the same company, but other auditor can do. See, if you are not the statutory auditor of the company, you can do the investment advisory service. Like that. Yeah, there are few cases are specifically mentioned: investment advisory services, accounting and bookkeeping services, actuarial services, internal audit specifically, rendering outsource of financial services. And the same accounting and bookkeeping services also is not allowed when the statutory auditor of the company. If he is not the statutory auditor, he can perform these activities.
Yes, absolutely correct. Absolutely correct. So in that particular scenario, you need to understand, okay, that like what is the requirement of this section 144 and what is the management consultancy service. See, section 144 basically, when I talk about, okay, it is applicable to the auditor of the company. It is not applicable to the CA in practice in general. Okay, it is applicable to the auditor of the company, which talks about investment advisory service, accounting bookkeeping service, designing and implementation of the financial information and control, investment banking, management services, actuarial service, internal audit, rendering outsourced service. But these are applicable to only auditor. So if a chartered accountant, if he is not the auditor, then section 144 will not be applicable to him. He can provide those services. That is part of the management consultancy service. Now the question again comes is, another question that I received, are we required to obtain special approval or prior permission from the council if we are required to provide management consultancy service under clause 11, part 1, first schedule? Yes, no? Do you need to obtain prior approval of the council before providing any of the service from the management consultancy service as required, as we discussed in clause 11 of part 1 of first schedule?
Yes, sir. The clause 11 is talk about there is a general permission they provided couple of items, and a specific permission they provided a couple of items. Say example, if the practicing chartered accountant can employ part-time job in the company, but the full-time job he has to obtain the permission. Like that, if he is working as a editorship of the private editorship, then he has to obtain.
So,
like that.
Yeah.
Not covered here. For these activity, if you are going for approval, definitely they will not approve. This is a specific section is 144 of the Companies Act. For these activity, we cannot go to the council and get the permission.
No, for not 144. For other, let's say the services which are specified under management consultancy service. So for these services I'm talking about, before providing these services as a chartered accountant, are you required to obtain prior permission from the council?
No, sir. No, it's not required.
No, sir.
Not required. Only for those items is specified under that specific general permission is required. Only those items alone we need to get the approval. For management consultancy service, we need not get approval from the council.
But if you see, I'll show you one more thing. Then you tell me whether your answer remains the same or not. So it is on page number 19.79 of your study material. There is one more point. If you go to specific resolution part and this part, any other business or occupation for which executive committee consider that permission may be granted. Do you think it will fall under this particular part?
No, sir.
And why so?
See, in addition to the management consultancy services, whatever is specified in the list, apart from that is any other services which is not covered in this here also. If the council is deemed fit, then those cases only we can go and refer to the council. I mean to say, management consultant services, a full list is given. For that, the council permission not needed. Also, here the 8 point is given for the specific requirement is given. In addition to that 8 point and mentioned in the MCS, management consulting, apart from that, if any other activities, for those cases, the consultation is needed from the committee.
Absolutely correct. So the answer lies to the regulation itself. Okay, regulation says a chartered accountant in practice not to engage in any other business. Okay, but management consultancy service is practice itself, deemed to be practice. It is not the other business, it is the deemed to be in practice. So when you are providing management consultancy service, you are a chartered accountant in practice only. You are not in any other business. That's why even if you read clause 11, it says engage in any other business or occupation. A CA in practice if you engage in any other business, but management consultancy service is not any other business or occupation other than the profession of chartered accountant. It is the profession of chartered accountant, which is there in section 2.2, management consultancy service. That's why clause 11 regulation 190A will not be applicable in this scenario. Clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So for management consultancy services, no prior approval or no prior permission is needed from the council because that is the practice, deemed to be practice. You are already in there. Just a minute. Yeah. So that is deemed to be in practice already. This one. No any other specific permission is required. Okay. So let's take one question. It is there in the study material itself. Very good question. Mr. A practicing chartered accountant, agreed to select and recruit personnel, conduct training program on behalf of a client where he is not providing any assurance service. Is this professional misconduct? Straightforward, simple question.
No, sir.
No, sir. No professional misconduct.
Okay. See here the recruiting personnel, conducting training programs on behalf of a client is part of your management consultancy. Okay. If I show you personal recruitment and selection, it is already part of your management consultancy. And you are providing to a non-assurance client. Where the client is non-assurance services. So it's a non-audit client. You are not providing any assurance service to that client. Perfectly fine. Not an issue. Clear?
Yes.
Okay. Let's take one more question. Mr. B, a practicing chartered accountant, was engaged in the conducting statutory energy and environmental audits for his clients. As a result, he had a good knowledge of the policies and practice to be followed in the energy sector. In 2021, some of his clients approached him and asked him to share his knowledge and guide them in which energy company they should invest in. Mr. B considered their request and started providing paid advisory regarding investment in energy sector stock. By the end of 2021, Mr. B's client made a good amount of profit based on the advice provided by Mr. B. The overall gross income earned by Mr. B from advisory regarding investment in energy sector for the calendar year was 25,60,000. Kindly guide whether Mr. B is liable for professional misconduct. So there are given options. Tell me, what do you think? Is Mr. B liable for professional misconduct?
Sir, he is a chartered accountant practicing a statutory auditor. So, statutory auditor, he cannot provide the investment advisory service. It is straight away, it's 144.
Okay. Anyone else with a different answer?
In some of the client approached.
Anyone else with a different answer?
Sir, 1 minute. He can be allowed because no, he is gained the knowledge from other company, whereas he is provided the information to some other knowledge. But here the disclosure of the confidentiality is not breached, and for other company he can provide that information. I think answer. He should not provide the investment service to the statutory audit company. I think in this case, it is some of the client approached him, not that audit client. So in this case, it is allowed.
No, his audited audited clients approached him. The question means that the client of which he was the statutory auditor, they approached him.
Correct.
Oh,
Yes, because he's conducting the statutory energy and environment audits. So he's in the profession of audit for his client, and his clients approach him. Means these are the audit clients. So what do you think? Which is the correct answer? Anyone? No? Okay. So the correct answer is B. He cannot provide. Reason because section 144 doesn't allow you to provide other services to a audit client. And see, I have written that in the question it is written that the statutory audit. Okay. Statutory audit is already there. So section 144 of the Companies Act will stop him to provide these kind of services for the statutory audit.
Yes, sir. 144 section is 144 means no activity to be done.
Yes.
If the statutory auditor is given 144.
Absolutely correct. Yes.
Right, sir.
Okay. Now, this is one more question I want to take up, and this is pertaining to the KYC norms. Okay. Before taking up, discussing KYC norms, I want to take this question because based on that, I'll explain you the KYC norms. Mr. B, a chartered accountant in practice, performed a joint audit to O&O Limited with Mr. D, another practicing chartered accountant. Further, the scope of Mr. B was limited to auditing the liabilities of the company and no other service was provided to that company. Later, it was identified the O&O Limited was involved in the money laundering activities for which the company, they were doing the audit. Upon the inquiry by the investigating authorities, it was revealed that Mr. B was not aware of the intent and the activities of the company, nor anything nor any issues were identified in the areas which were audited by him, like Mr. B. Investigation authorities asked Mr. B to hand over the KYC details and other details that Mr. B obtained during the audit. However, Mr. B was not having any such detail as he contended that he was performing the audit of a liabilities for which he is not required to maintain KYC details. Kindly discuss whether Mr. B has complied with the guidelines issued by the ICAI with respect to the KYC norms. So discuss whether he was required or not required.
Sir, required.
Okay.
Yes, sir. As per the KYC norm issued by ICAI, member in practice are required to comply with the KYC norm, which include obtaining general information and engagement information and regulatory information for all assignment pertaining to the attested function.
Okay. Yes, absolutely correct. So now, when I talk about KYC norms, understand one thing. KYC norms are applicable to member providing assurance services, attestation functions. I would like everyone to come on page number 19.37 of your study material. Over there, you have a KYC norms. Okay. Now, if you see KYC norms, basically specifies like what are the things a member should keep at the minimum when they are performing an assignment to the attestation functions. Attestation includes every attestation, every assurance services. Okay. So it's not only about the audit, I'm talking about all attestations, all certificates, limited assurance, reasonable assurance, all attest functions, wherever you provide any assurance, not only audit. So if the client is an individual, you should have name, PAN, business description, Aadhaar, copy of last audited financial statement, and the type of engagement that you are entering in. This is where the client is proprietor. When the client is corporate, so general information, again, name, business description, name of parent company in case of subsidiary, copy of last financial statement, company PAN, SIN, director details, like director identification, name and address, and the type of engagement when there is a corporate entity. So if you see, general information, engagement information is common here also. General information, engagement information. Only the regulatory part got added because it's a corporate client. Now, if it is a non-corporate entity, again you have a general information and engagement information, just like where the client was an individual or proprietor. But the general is about now non-corporate entity. That is the name and address of the entity, PAN, business description, partners detail, copy of last audited financial statement, and type of engagement.
Sir, and also copy of last audited financial statement in general information for all the engagement is common.
Yes. So copy of last audited financial statement, business description, name of entity is common. See, name of entity, business description, copy of last financial. Name of individual, business description, copy of last. PAN changes because PAN here is of individual. In here, it is company PAN. Here, it is the PAN of non-corporate entity. But PAN is also required commonly.
Right, sir.
Okay. So this was the KYC norms, and accordingly in this scenario also, although he is performing joint audit, but it is an attestation service. So as per the KYC norms issued by the ICAI, member in practice are required to comply with the KYC norms, where they need to obtain general information, regulatory information for all the assignment pertaining to attestation function. Okay. Clear? Any doubt till now?
If he does not comply, then what is the consequence?
If you does not comply, then what is the consequence? Good question. I would ask others to answer this. So we have already discussed this point. Like if you don't comply a particular regulation, so what are the consequences? Anyone? If you don't comply to a particular regulation, act, guidelines, then what are the consequences? No?
The other misconduct will apply, sir.
Other misconduct, okay. Anyone else?
Part 2, Schedule 2, Clause 1.
Absolutely correct. Yes. Professional misconduct, not another misconduct. It is Clause 1, Part 2, second schedule. If you contravene any act, regulation, guideline, you will be held guilty of professional misconduct. And accordingly, this is second schedule. Your name can be permanently removed, 5 lakh rupees of fine, and member can be reprimanded.
Yes, sir.
So these are the consequences if you do not comply with the KYC norms. Any other doubt? Okay. If no doubt, then there is another section that I want to take up is section 25, which talks about companies not to engage in accountancy. Okay. So section 25 says that no company shall practice as a chartered accountant. Companies are not allowed to practice as a chartered accountant. If they do, the penalty for the first conviction is 1,000 rupees and for the subsequent conviction is 5,000. And proceedings can be taken against the company, director, manager, secretary, whosoever is involved in practicing in a company form. However, there is an exemption given to the LLP. So where if you see section 141 subsection 2, it is said that LLPs are allowed to be appointed as an auditor. So exemption is given to the LLP. LLPs are allowed under Companies Act also. Okay. And they can, engage and they can, do as a practice as a CA. Okay. With CA firm, basically. So that is allowed for them. But as a company, you cannot. Corporate form of practice, you cannot do like auditing being a company or being, in a corporate form. Clear? Okay. So I have one question. If you guys clear on this, let me ask you one simple question on this particular part. Corporate form of, assurance services is not allowed. Section 25 says no. We just now saw about Section 25, Chartered Accountancy Act. Okay. So no company shall practice as a chartered accountant. Perfectly fine. Now let's talk about LLP. As I said, LLP is allowed. Fine. So let's talk about ABC LLP. ABC LLP has three partners. A, B, and C Limited. C Limited again has two shareholders, C and D. Everyone is CA in practice. Okay. Everyone is a CA in practice. Now tell me whether this structure is allowed or not as per Section 25.
Not allowed, sir.
Not allowed, okay. But here, ABC LLP wants to conduct.
Not allowed because C Limited is a company. Company itself is not allowed.
Okay, but company is a partner.
Sir, in this case, only the internal.
Company itself is not.
Yeah, it's not allowed, sir.
Okay. Anyone else have a different answer?
So while a company is not allowed, but a company can be a partner.
Okay.
And an LLP is allowed.
But in LLP, there is a company is a partner, so not allowed, sir.
Okay. So, in this particular scenario, this is not allowed. Company cannot be a partner in LLP. It cannot be. No. Reason because partners has when I talk about CA firm, partners are authorized to sign on behalf of other partners. Can a company sign on behalf of a CA in practice? Answer is no. Okay, so in that case, C Limited cannot be a partner in ABC LLP. Clear?
But in this case, only one thing is allowed, sir. They can do internal audit.
No, but I cannot register ABC LLP as a CA firm. The question is, I register ABC?
That is true, sir. So it cannot become a LLP. Company cannot become a member of LLP for the CA firm. That is true. But company can do the internal audit. We have a separate provision for the internal audit. There is no restriction for this.
Company can provide any management consultancy service. So there is no restriction on that. If there is a separate C Limited, they can provide anything, like any services.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah. Okay. I hope this is clear. So, Section 25 corporate companies not to engage in accountancy. It has that company should not have LLP should not have company as its partner. Okay. Any doubt?
Sir, LLP can have a company as a partner or not? So generally,
LLP?
Can a company become a partner in an LLP generally?
Yes, they can. Not an issue.
Okay.
But if you think from a feasibility point of view, a lot of things are involved. No one will prefer for that.
That is.
There are other complications which will, rather not to have this kind of structure. Okay. Then let's proceed forward. Members in practice are prohibited from using the designation other than chartered accountant. We have already seen this. We have already discussed this. Okay. You can use the designation of chartered accountant. You can use the prefix CA. Okay. But under Section 7 of the CA Act prohibits member to use any other designation other than the chartered accountant. Okay. Yeah, there are certain designations you can use that we have already seen when we were discussing clause 6 and 7. Okay, at that time we discussed in detail. So I'll not go again and repeat again, but yeah, it's the same. It is enumerated in Section 7 also. Okay, very important part. Very important. Branch office, Section 27. Now, chartered accountants or the firm of chartered accountant can have a branch office, more than one office in India. Okay. However, the requirement is that each such office shall have a in charge who should be a member of institute. The basic provision or the basic requirement is you can have multiple offices, but each such office should have an in charge, and that in charge should be a member of institute. Okay. Now, if you fail to comply with this, again, you are failing to comply with the regulations, guidelines, and accordingly, consequences will be there. Fine. However, there are exemptions. There are two major exemptions given to this condition, to this requirement, basically. Number one is the exemption for the practicing in hilly areas. Number two, exemption based on the distance. Okay. So these are the two exemptions which are given. So let's discuss about first exemption. The first exemption is exemptions for practicing in hilly area. Now, if you have a branch office in hilly areas, okay, and if you don't want to keep a separate in charge who is a member of institute, you have to comply with these conditions. The condition is you are allowed to open another office for a, an area other than hilly areas. Let's say, for example, you have office in Himachal Pradesh or Kashmir. Now, in the month of November, December, January, February, it is too much of cold. No one will be able to come to your office. So that's why for the limited period, not exceeding 3 months, you are allowed to open a temporary office in the city of Plains. For example, somewhere in New Delhi, somewhere in other city where the weather is appropriate. Here, people can come for 3 months, not exceeding 3 months. Number two, if you want, you can keep open your regular office, which is there in the hilly areas. If you want, you can keep it closed, but there is no requirement to close down that particular office. Number three, before commencement of every winter, you have to intimate the institute that you are going to office and you are going to open a temporary office at this particular date, at this particular place, and for this particular period.
From your calendar, cases.
Next condition, that the name board should not be displayed on your temporary office other than when you are opening that particular office. Means for that 3 months you can disclose, otherwise you should not disclose it. Name board. Fourth and very important condition is, fifth, in a very important condition is, you should not mention the address of the temporary office on your documents like letterhead, visiting card, or other documents. So if you satisfy all the 5 conditions, you can open a temporary office. You can open a temporary office without a separate in charge of a member of institute. So that is the first exemption. Clear with this?
So for the temporary office, there will be no separate in charge.
Yes. Any doubt?
Oh, sir, clear, sir.
Clear.
Second is your location-based exemption. if the second office is situated in the same premises in which the first office is located. If the second office is located in the same city where the first office is located, then there is no need for separate in charge. So I have given an example through a map. If your office is within the same city, like Mumbai, from one place to another, some distance, some kilometer distance is there, but within the same city or within the same premise, perfectly fine. No need for separate in charge. There is one more third condition. That is, if your second office is located within a distance of 50 kilometers from the municipal limits in which the first office is located, from the municipal limits of city in which the first office is located, in that case, again, no need to have a separate in charge. Okay. So in this particular example, if I talk about, let's say, this particular, So the municipal limits, let's say, of this particular city is over here, this line. This is the municipal limits. And if your second office is situated within 50 kilometers, okay, 50 kilometers from that municipal limit, then perfectly fine. No need to have a separate in charge. Clear?
So like Delhi, Noida, Delhi, Gurgaon.
Yes. But from the end of municipal limit, it should be within 50 kilometers, not beyond that. Okay?
Yes, sir. This is interesting.
Yes, sir.
Now, I'll take up one more example so that you can have a good understanding of this particular topic. So, let's say one office is in Jaipur, one office is in New Delhi. Do I need a separate in charge?
Yeah, definitely, because the distance is for more than 50 kilometers.
Can I claim an exemption of the hilly area?
If it is a
No,
hill
no.
area,
No, sir. No, sir. No, sir.
No.
No. So I
No.
cannot claim an exemption of the hilly area because it is, if it has to be within 50 kilometers, which is not basically. Okay. This is not within 50 kilometers. As a result, the distance I'm talking about over here, okay, is more than 50 kilometers. From the municipal limit of Delhi, it is more than 50 kilometers. As a result, this needs separate in charge. Clear? Any doubt?
Clear,
Sir, in hilly area, the separate office has to be in a particular distance. Like if it is Masuri, then Dehradun has to be there. It can be anywhere.
Anywhere. I can have one hilly area office in Kashmir and the plain city, I can choose New Delhi. Perfectly fine.
No state requirement, nothing. Can be a different state altogether.
Yes. But make sure that the office in the plains, city of plains, is only for the temporary purpose. 3 months.
That is true.
Only for 3 months.
Yeah, that is true. But it can be a different state altogether, sir.
Yes, it can be different state. Perfectly fine.
Sir, till now, I am assuming that only in the state, only where the hill is located, only that state only is allowed for temporary office 3 months. I will see, if say example, if the hill area is belonging to Delhi or somewhere else, can I set up office at Karnataka or in Mumbai?
See, again, now let's say if there is a hilly area, your office in the hilly area. First of all, you need to understand hilly area should be there, okay, where practically, now here you need to apply to the institute for this particular exemption. So they see practically, is it possible for you to operate during the time of the winter or not? And accordingly, the exemption is granted. Number two, like when I say city of plains, okay, it can be any city of plains. It's not restricted to a one city. but it should not be exceeding more than 3 months. That's a requirement in a year.
Sir, it must be that same state city must be there, sir. You cannot planes.
There could be a state like, for example, where I don't have a city of planes. It may be possible. For example, it is not possible, or there are other limitations also. So I can have a temporary office. For example, if my, office is there in some hilly area of Himachal, I can
That
have.
was that way, yes.
Huh? Hello.
Yes, sir, clear.
So there are states where you will not find city of planes, proper city of planes.
Only hill area. Is there any state like that in India, sir?
You can see Uttarakhand is there. You can see Himachal. Some portions of Himachal are there. So again, it becomes very difficult to open another office, temporary office in your city of plains.
Okay, sir. Okay, sir. Then is something interesting on this.
See, now I want to discuss one important point here is when I talk about the concept of in charge. What do you mean by in charge? Can anyone tell me how can I say this person is in charge? Let's say if I talk about like a person, I'm saying, okay, I am a CA in practice, partner in a firm. I'm in Delhi. I want to open a new office in Mumbai. My partner is in Delhi. I say this person who is my partner in Delhi, he's in charge of Mumbai office.
Say in person in charge is actually he is required to be an active association of the particular branch, which means he has to be member in residing or visiting the office for at least a period of not less than 182 days in a year. Then only he will be treated as a person in charge. Otherwise, not.
Yes, absolutely correct. So the question here comes is actively associated. Okay. So actively associated is required in this particular scenario. Okay. And when I say actively associated, the term actively associated, that means that person should be there at least for, period of 182 days in a year. He should be attending that office for a period of 182 days or more in that particular office. Then only I can say that person is actively associated. Otherwise, how can I say that person is actively associated? Now, the second question is, when I say member of institute, can he be a member of institute but not my partner, not my employee?
Sir, can you please repeat the question?
So, as I said, separate in charge who is a member of institute, but he is not my partner, not my employee. I'm making him in charge.
Yeah,
practicing a CA can be.
Yeah, he should have the COP, certificate of practice must be there.
Okay, so you are saying the requirement is certificate of practice. Okay, but if let's say for example he has a certificate of practice, he is not my partner, not my employee, I can designate him as an in charge of the particular office. Yes.
Yes, sir. He should be the partner. Then only the branch will be there. No, if there is no partner, then how the branch office will come?
No, but I am opening my branch office. I am a sole proprietor. I have my firm. I want to open another branch office in another city. I approach a TA and ask him to be in charge of that office.
Yeah, he can be in charge of that office, but he should be. He should have COP. Then only he become the partner. Then only he handle the operation. Having the membership alone is not eligible for opening the office. He cannot do the COP, the certificate of practice.
Okay. Okay. So now in this particular scenario, okay, when we say that he should have a COP, that is not correct. Reason because when I say a separate in charge who is a member of institute, that person, okay, should be either a partner or my employee. The member should be either a partner or an employee. I cannot ask a third CA to be in charge of my office. How he can be in charge? Like, what is the role of in charge? The role of in charge to look after the operations of that particular branch office. But if I appoint another CA to look after my operations of branch office, this is not an appropriate. That's why the charter accountant or the member of institute in charge of the branch office, okay, should be associated with me as a partner or the employee or paid assistant. Okay, and if he's an employee as a paid assistant, he has to be in full-time employment. He cannot be a part-time employee for the purpose of this thing only. I cannot appoint third person who's a CE in practice. And let's say if he's an employee, he doesn't have a COP, perfectly fine. If he's a paid assistant, he's not having a COP, but he's a member of institute. Remember, membership and certificate of practice, two different things. If he's a member of institute, perfectly fine with me.
Oh, okay, sir. See, till now I am thinking that only the person who has the COP can have the branch office. Only if it is a partner or employee of the particular firm.
Paid assistant.
Yeah. Even the paid assistant also can be considered. The COP is not mandatory in this case.
No, COP is not mandatory to be an in charge. Remember that.
Okay. Okay, but he cannot sign. That's the only problem, right? Okay.
Oh, yeah, that's a different story. That's signing authority is something different than being an in charge.
But he has to be paid assistant. I mean, that way.
Paid,
but
yeah, paid assistant
is not allowed.
Yeah.
That's a full-time employment, no?
Yeah, full-time employment.
Yes.
Right. Either he can be a paid assistant or the full-time employment or the employee or the partner. All four cases are allowed. COP is not mandatory, but he should be a member of the institute. That's it.
Yep.
Okay, sir. Fine. Got it.
Any doubts to any of the area that we have discussed till now? Any questions?
But sir, if he is a partner, he COP, no? In case of a partner, if he is a partner, then he should have a COP, no? Then it cannot be dispensed with.
No, like
then it becomes that.
See, in that particular case, it is not mandatory for him to have a COP. But if he has a COP, perfectly fine, not an issue. COP is required to be a partner. Yes, that is requirement is there. COP is required for the signing. Yes, that requirement is there. COP is not a requirement for being in charge of an office.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Right, sir. Thank you.
Any doubts? Any doubts? No? Okay. If no further doubts, let me take up one question. Very good question. It is related to, again, professional misconduct part. Very good. So it's it is also related to some one more area that we discussed just right now. Okay. Mr. D is a practicing chartered accountant from Mangalore. He is being practicing as a sole proprietor for past 2 decades. Mr. D's daughter, Miss S, is a newly qualified chartered accountant who has cleared the final exam just 3 months ago. Immediately after qualifying, she also wanted to set up a sole proprietary concern and practice of her own. After setting up the firm, she printed her own visiting card as follows. The visiting card is given. In the view of above visiting card, whether Miss S will be held guilty of professional misconduct? If yes, then which clause? So what is the correct answer?
Sir, once he become the CA, he has to 5 years after experience only, she can put the FCA. In this case, she straight away put the FCA on this.
So, under which clause she will be held guilty for professional misconduct?
Clause 7.
Clause 7, okay, of part 1. Anyone else with a different answer?
Part 3, sir, clause 1.
Part 3, clause 1.
Yeah, part 3, clause 1 is correct.
First schedule.
Yeah, of the first schedule.
So, part 3, professional misconduct, member in general, clause 1, not being a fellow, represents himself as a fellow. Same scenario is applicable over here. She is not a fellow, but she represents FCA as a fellow member of the institute. She just now cleared the exam, and as a result, she will be held guilty for clause 1, part 3 of first schedule. Clear? Any doubt? Any doubt?
Clear, sir.
Okay. If you have any doubt with respect to any of the topic that we have discussed till now,
Sir, I have missed the previous classes. If I have thoroughly study or go through the classes and make notes, is that enough, sir?
sorry, you have missed the previous classes and
Miss, I have missed the previous class, sir. So, if we go through the, if I go through the previous classes thoroughly and make notes, is that enough to revise,
yes.
sir?
Yes, you can see the previous lectures perfectly fine. Go through to all the lectures which are there, and based on those lectures, you can prepare your notes. That is very good.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Okay, that is very good, and basically that is suggested also. So these are the revisionary lectures, and you are supposed to go through the full lectures first, read the study material, and then you see these revisionary lectures. That will be very helpful for you. Then. Okay, let me take up, basically from the mock test paper which is there for the recent one, September 1. Let me check if I can get MTP for the September 1. We'll take one question from that. The recent question which is there.
RTP, sir, RTP.
RTP, yeah.
Let me take up from that. Okay, you know where the RTPs are available on the institute's website?
Sir, main pages, in main page, BOS main page, there is RTPs.
Yes. Okay, so I'll just show you also, guys, like how to go through that particular portal and where it is available. Then we'll take it up. Okay, so if you are on the BOS portal, okay, you can go revision test papers. You go to final. You go to September 25 RTP. Okay, and then for the professional like audit and professional ethics, paper 3. So you will get the RTP over here. Now here, let's take one question from the RTP directly so that we can have a good understanding about the topic, and we will be solving a recent question also. Okay. So just a minute, let me go to the particular question. Okay. So you need to comment with reference to the provisions of the Chartered Accountant Act and schedules thereto. The question is, CA Sile is a statutory auditor of the Greenway Limited. a listed company falling under the top 1,000 companies as per the market capitalization on the stock exchange. The company is required to submit its BRSR reporting as per the SEBI regulations. Greenway Limited approached CSIL to prepare BRSR study report and assist him in drafting disclosures. Additionally, the company requested CSIL to provide assurance on BRSR core to be submitted as a part of regulatory filings. CSIL, being confident of his knowledge and expertise in the sustainability reporting, agreed to both roles, preparing the BRSR study and providing assurance on the BRSR core. You need to comment with respect to the CA Act and the schedules there too on this particular part.
So it's a self-review threat.
Okay. Self-review threat and what else can you say about this apart from the self-review threat?
Sir, actually, the business responsibility and the sustainability report is a separate report, but auditor can review and provide his comment on that. But
your voice is, I think, not there. Like I'm not able to hear voice.
Sir, can you hear me properly now, sir?
No, sorry, I'm not able to hear voice. It's breaking a lot. Can you repeat again?
Sir, actually, I think this echo is coming. Okay, I will close it and come back again, sir.
Okay. Anyone else? Any other answer on this?
Preparation of BRSR report is not on the CA. They must be prepared by management only.
Okay. Okay. Not an issue. So basically, what is the scenario? Now I'll show you the recent decision of the Ethical Standard Board. Remember, we discussed about that. So it is not permissible for a member in practice, being the statutory auditor, to prepare BRSR reporting, a BRSR study to the audit clients.
Hello, am I audible now, sir?
Yes, you're audible now.
Sir, what I'm trying to say that, say, BSR activities is a separate activity. The statutory auditor cannot do the both simultaneously the preparation. The thing is that,
yes,
but he can provide the assurance for that BRSR. That is allowed. He can do the audit, but he cannot prepare both statutory as well as the BRSR. That is what I am coming to say that during that time, sir. No.
Yes. Yeah, so he is so member like who is being a statutory auditor of the company is not permissible to prepare BRSR study report for the audit clients. It is permissible for a member in practice to be the statutory auditor and to be an assurance provider of BSR core. Okay, he can be an assurance provider to provide the assurance on BRSR core, but he cannot be, being a statutory auditor, he cannot be a person who can prepare the reporting. Okay. In connection with that, if you see this particular question, now Sahil is a statutory auditor of the company. Now, being a statutory auditor of the company, he is not allowed to prepare BRSR study reports. Yes, he can provide assurance, but he is not allowed to prepare the study reports. And accordingly, it is not, he will be held guilty of professional misconduct. Clear with this?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
So let's see the answer of this, how the answer is drafted, because we need to write an exam also. So let me take you to the answer, and this is how we need to write the answer. Okay, so here it is. So first, as per the recent decision taken by the Ethical Standard Board, so the decision we just now discussed, that is a decision. Okay, then you need to provide the analysis. You provided the provision first based on the recent decision taken by the Ethical Standard Board. You have to specify that. If it is the recent decision of the Ethical Standard Board, you specify that, like from where it is coming. And then you provide the analysis. What is the analysis here? And then you provide the conclusion. And then, like the final one is, would be held guilty of professional misconduct for accepting the assignment to prepare BRSR study.
PAC. PAC. P means provision, A means analyze, C means conclusion.
Absolutely correct. Yes.
Don't remember all the codes, na? You'll forget them in the exam. Take general idea, na?
See, basically, like it's the way you write your answer has to be in flow. Remember that always. Okay, let's take up another question. Next one. Messrs. R & Company, a firm of chartered accountants, received 2 lakhs as advanced against professional services from a charitable institute. Additionally, the institution entrusted rupees 10 lakh to the firm for the specific purpose of investment in designated securities. The auditor deposited it in their saving bank's account, and no investment was made in the next 3 months.
Sir, for this, he has to take another separate account, open separate account for that client, and not in his own savings account. He can deposit it.
Okay.
Sir, this is a straightaway case that second schedule of the part 1 last class, that 10th class is straightaway. If money received from the client for the purpose, it has to be spent for purpose alone. If it is not spent for that amount for the specific purpose, he has to be kept in the separate account opened for that purpose. Otherwise, he will be the guilty of professional misconduct for that case.
Absolutely correct. But tell me one thing, is it only for the 10 lakhs or for the advance fee also?
Only for 10 lakhs. Advance fees is for his money, no? Why he has to deposit 2 lakhs? He is received for advance. 10 lakhs is a matter.
Absolutely correct. So, as per the clause 10 part 1 second schedule, if you have received a specific amount of funds for a specific purpose, there are 2 things. One, keep in a separate bank account. Second, use for that particular purpose within the reasonable time frame. Okay. Now, first he has to keep in a separate bank account, which he has not done. He has done in his savings account. Second, he was supposed to use to invest in the designated securities. But for the 3 months, there was nothing, no activity was done. Okay. So, hence, in the given case, he will be held guilty of professional misconduct under clause 10 part 1 second schedule.
For this part also, so that he did not invest in the designated securities.
Yes, because now again, there is a, like if I talk about reasonable time frame, if something was given to him for the investment purpose, okay, so he has to invest that particular amount in the securities. Yeah, if there was a time limit assigned, let's say for example, if the time limit was assigned, okay, you have to invest within the span of 1 year, then it is fine. You need to understand what is the reasonable time frame we are talking about with respect to the activity.
Correct, sir.
So instead of he depositing into designated security of the firm, he deposited in his saving account.
That is not a designated security. Okay. Any doubts on any of the part or anything we have discussed till now?
Sir, if it is not an issue, sir, you were saying, sir, you will be providing some PDF, some clauses that will...
Clause are not remembered properly.
I think the short notes you prepared, sir, that in PDF format.
That will be that will be shared with you in the
Yeah,
PDF itself.
you can share through that BOS, that WhatsApp group created. No,
Yes.
we have access for that.
In the WhatsApp group.
Definitely.
Yeah,
yes, definitely.
We will upload them on the portal only.
Okay.
Okay.
That is.
Sir, in WhatsApp group, I have not included yet. Give my number to this Ashok ji, but not included.
We will share the link. Yeah.
So you will be taking up revisions on standards after these professional ethics.
So you will get the schedule online. You need to check for the schedule also. Like see the schedule is there.
Yes.
Any other doubt? Any other question you guys have?
Yeah, so no doubt, sir. But it's a revisionary class. It's really useful, sir. We are discussing the recent RTP also, and discussing for past examination questions, all these things. It's really useful for us to remember. See, when we are practice more on the discussion, it will retain more. On simply reading rather than listening is more weightage for this. Thank you for thank you so much for you, sir. And also I thanks for Board of Studies for the wonderful event like this. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you. So we have Tanya ma'am with us.
Yeah, good morning, everyone. Thank you, Harshit sir. Thank you, everyone. I'm glad to know that you all are really enjoying these classes and getting benefit from these. And we are trying to cover as much questions as we can in these sessions. And in today's session, we revised the remaining part of the professional ethics, that is fundamental principles, KYC norms, and council general guidelines. And Harshad sir also take up RTP, recent RTP. So I wish you all the very best. And I must say, next we have 9 classes left with engagement and quality control standards starting from Saturday. So please take a maximum benefit out of them. If you revise before the attending the LVRCs, you will get much benefit from them. And I would like to ask few questions. आज की class से कुछ questions. How many fundamental principles are there?
There are
6.
There are 5 fundamental principles.
Sorry,
Oh,
5. Yes.
okay, yeah, 5.
Confidentiality, integrity, objectivity, professional and due care, and professional competences.
Okay, yeah. PCDC, professional competence and due care. Okay. Who will explain me integrity? What is there in integrity? Can anyone of you? Acha, okay. So let me tell you, integrity is about being honest and truthful in everything we do, even if no one is watching us. So if a client is if you find something mistake or some misstatement in the client's financial statement, whether you will report it or not, if client is your friend, and what will you do? As the auditor, are we going to disclose the fact or not? Yeah, Prashantji, I think you are saying something.
Yes, ma'am, we will be disclosing if we come across any.
Oh, okay. So, students, we have shared the link of chat, WhatsApp chat. You can join from them in the chat we have shared. Okay. So, in objectivity is all about fairness and keeping personal feelings aside. Suppose your close friend asks you to audit their company, and if you think your judgment would be biased one, so ethical step is to just stay back. Your decision should not be based on the based on the biasness. Okay, so it is objectivity. What is there in PCDC? Any one of you can explain me? हर्षद सर ने बहुत अच्छे से explain किया था PCDC. You all ask questions, you don't answer us. Okay, so PCDC means keeping your knowledge up to date. As we are the auditors, we need to stay updated and doing our work very diligently. what is about confidentiality? Suppose
Not,
yeah.
not
IAPPBC का full form.
other than the client,
Yeah.
without there being a requirement of law.
See, we either see when the person in the CA in practice, he should not disclose any confidential information obtained from the client during the audit. He does not disclose to anybody else other than the client. And also when the tax is when the tax regularity other authorities asking that those time only he can provide. In the same way, when the person, the professional accountant in service also, he should maintain the confidentiality. Whenever he obtained any confidential information, he should not disclose the information to the outsider unless otherwise is with the permission from the client or regulatory is asked. Only those information. Yeah.
If he is my past client, then
even the past client also we should be kept quiet. We should not open our mouth.
Very good. Very nice. And what is professional behavior?
Yeah, professional behavior, we should to maintain the professional behavior during the audit as well as outside of the audit also. We should not disrepute to the professions.
Yeah.
Under the sun, say example, under the sun, whatever, wherever the activity you are doing, we should be, the professional behavior is must. Well, as soon as you enter into the CA.
So yes, you all are getting benefit from LVRCs. I can see that. So thank you so much everyone for your patience listening and for your active participation. And thank you, Harshal sir. And
Thank you very
everyone. Yeah.
Ma'am, query section.
Sorry? We are not getting you.
Ma'am, you are having open house sessions in the afternoon, 3 o'clock.
Yes, 4 to 5.
4 to 5.
Yes.
If it is possible that we can conduct them on a topic basis, like for a particular topic on, so we can limit our questions to that particular topic and, ask, and then we can be well prepared.
Actually, it is a open house, so it is beneficial for you only. You can ask from any topic. It is up to you which topic you want to discuss in open house, which doubts you have.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay, we will take up your
Ma'am, one more thing. Particularly, thank you, ma'am, for the last class. You have asked one question: the disciplinary committee. What is the disciplinary action? Because of that, in the last 2 days, I have studied that. Now we are sure that on the first schedule it will go for BOS, Board of Discipline. Second schedule it will go for disciplinary committee. The fine also we raised the appeal. All these things we studied well. Because you asked the question, we are unable to answer your question on the day.
Yes, and if he's guilty in both the schedules?
Yeah, both the schedule it will be referred by the disciplinary committee.
Okay.
Today the Hashis sir also explained that during one of the question.
Okay, nice. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you, ma'am.
No, thanks. Hanji, yes.
Yes.